I want to talk about how to achieve a great bass tone for your hip hop beats. I want to break down 5 key concepts that help you get a great bass tone, whether you're working with a plug-in bass, sampled bass, or maybe even a live recorded bass that will fit perfectly within your beat. So I've just been developing these concepts through doing beats for 20 years, last 10 picked up bass and been playing a lot on other people's tunes. And with that, when I first started making beats, I became obsessed with particular tones, like, what Necro was doing when it was really prolific, specifically that tune Our Life he did with Ill Bill. More recent versions, Jim Dean, that beat done by Knots, the Evidence track. And then just going back to my childhood, just DJ Scratch the Wizard on that flip mode tune, I Got Your Back, with the piano bring. So all of those tones I became obsessed with. And then when I started playing bass, I got really good compliments on my bass tone, people thinking, rah, what did you put on that? And I just sort of said, well, at that point, there was no processing. And then from there, I started to process it a bit more and then got it absolutely perfect. And that's what got me thinking around tones really important. It was important to me and important to other beat makers. So here are my 5 concepts to really get a great bass tone for your beats. To work through these concepts, here's one of my bass lines to a beat that we'll be working through. Concept 1 is note velocity. The main 4 notes carrying the bass line, they're similar in velocity. And then the notes in between, the shorter notes, they vary a little bit. I just find having consistency in velocities helps you to keep a consistent tone throughout your bass line. Concept 2 is the tone knob. So on my bass, the Fender P bass, Precision Bass full name, I've got a dial to adjust that. Its default settings is to 12 o'clock. I adjust it to 6 o'clock. If you're not dealing with a plug-in, just roll off the highs and that will get you close. Concept 3 is distortion. When I'm playing my bass guitar, I tend not to put any on because Fender P basses, they're casually described as having this growl to the sound. But when I'm programming MIDI plugins, I try to replicate that by putting a little bit of distortion. So with the MIDI version of the bass line, let me play it without distortion and then with distortion. So this is the bass line without any distortion using a stock plugin. And this is with distortion. It's very, very subtle, but it just gives it a bit more presence using whatever distortion plugin that you're most familiar with. And it's just about just giving it in little amounts just to give it that presence. So in isolation, it may sound quite a bit, but in the context of the beat, it just makes it sit a bit better within it. Concept 4 is amp simulation. My go-to is Guitar Rig with the preset fingered bass 1 as my starting point. Love the sound of the cabinet, and what's key here is to get that direct injection sound as opposed to a mic'd up sound, so you can get that up close, rattle the speakers, cut through sound. It's really, really important. Concept 5 is EQ. What I'll do is I'll play my bass line with no EQ, then play it with it. So this is no EQ. This is with EQ. What's really key here is the low mids. That's what I find what is really the key to this tone, because with the EQ, it took out less of the finger squeaks. You almost get the best of both worlds between live and programmed. You get the live feel, but you get that programmed low subby sound. So low mids around 400, try cutting around there. And when you reduce that, you just reduce the finger noise and then you get more into that programmed synthesized sound. So just to recap over those 5 concepts, first one being note velocities, a bit of range but not too much. Second one being bass tone, roll off the highs. Third one being a little bit of distortion just to give it some presence. The fourth one being amp simulation, ideally a DI over more of a mic'd up feel. And the fifth one being actually the EQ, the low mids around 400s and then roll off not too much sub. And essentially those are the 5 concepts to achieve that great bass tone in your beats. And as a follow-up, if you're up for it, make a beat using these principles, tag me at S.H.A.K.E Works on Twitter, and I'll provide some feedback and just help you genuinely in any way that I can. So one last ask from me, if you found this valuable in any way, if you're watching this on YouTube, just give it a like, just lets me be able just to spread the word to this of other people which need that good bass tone in the hip hop beats. That'd be much appreciated. Or if you're listening on the podcast, be kind enough just to leave a review. Again, it's just letting people know that need this about this information, just so they can incorporate it into their beat making. So thanks for taking the time to check this out. I'll be back with more of these soon. Drop me some comments and let me know, see if there's any other topics that you want me to cover specifically. So happy creating whatever you're doing, and I'll be back again soon.